In Planetside 2, weaponry is balanced on the premise that each weapon brings its own advantages to the battlefield. One weapon's weakness might be another one's strength, so when someone asks me what my favourite weapons in the game actually are, I find it quite tough to answer, but I also like answering tough questions here on this channel. So, g'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to be going over my top 10 favourite weapons in Planetside 2. And just before we get into the list here today guys, I want to clarify that this here list is a subjective one, not an objective one. Some weapons are known for being more powerful than others at times, maybe even a little too powerful, but that's a video for another day. Today I want to focus on my personal favourite weapons in the game. These are weapons that I find the most rewarding, the most fun, or even the most satisfying to use in the game as of right now. It doesn't mean that they are the most effective across the board, which means that, no, you shouldn't go out and buy these weapons instantly if I say they're good. It's going to come down to whether or not they work with your personal playstyle. Also, yes, some of the gameplay you are seeing in the background does feature gameplay from the Shattered Warpgate update that is now on the live server, which yes, we will be doing some content for, so make sure you subscribe for that if you aren't already. But without further ado, let's get into my top 10 favourite weapons in Planetside 2. People who know me well enough will know that this was coming. The NC6 GAUSS is just the chungus of the Planetside world, the heavy hitter, the poster child for the NC if you will, that sends 100 rounds of pure freedom downrange, all the while kicking like a mule and complaining the whole damn time. The 200 damage profile in combination with a 100 round magazine grants this weapon one of the highest kill potentials per magazine by default out of the entire game's arsenal. But this doesn't come easy, as it's paired with one of the heaviest recoil kicks in the entire game. Being 100% honest guys, it's just the belligerent teenager of the NC world that kicks and screams as long as you try to use it. It just doesn't want to be there. But it is honestly one of the most fun weapons to use in the game once you wrestle it into your control. You learn to love it as you work on your crosshair placement and your recoil control, with the end result being a weapon that is quickly capable of murdering entire squads of troops with no breaks at all. It's actually my most used weapon in the game right now, with the NC6A GAUSS coming up as a close second when it comes to total kills. So there's no denying that this is quite simply my favourite weapon in the game right now. Now, going from one extreme to the next, we have ourselves here the GD7F. This here is an NC carbine that takes a sharp, almost illegal U-turn away from what would be traditionally considered an NC weapon and focuses entirely on dialing the burst factor to 11. The result is, without a doubt, the angriest sounding carbine of the NC that, quite frankly, needs some anger management classes. There's just something so satisfying about slapping on an advanced laser sight here and flying as a light assault, giving the TR troops a taste of their own medicine with what could only be described as the bullet vomit that this weapon sends out. Now, to be fair, I was very close to giving the AF-19 Mercenary this slot instead because, quite frankly, it's just the more solid all-rounder weapon that keeps on giving in any situation. But I kept thinking about the two weapons here, and it occurred to me that while I would take the AF-19 Mercenary if I wanted to be a bit more, sensible, the GD7F is just a weapon that is as fun as they come, while still providing one of the most effective CQC platforms for new conglomerate light assaults, and for that reason alone, it sits on this list in the place that it does. The NS-66 Punisher is actually the newest weapon to have graced Araxis that has found its way onto this list, but there is simply no denying how much I've enjoyed using it over the past few months. Most of you will remember the review I did on the weapon back when it launched, and you will also remember the glowing recommendation I gave it. There's no denying its ability to be a menace in CQC with an admirable hipfire to boot, and its smaller magazine encourages you to play a little craftier than what you might normally play. And that challenge is one of the reasons it finds its way onto the list. But one does not simply mention the NS66 Punisher without talking about its integrated adaptive underbarrel launcher, which just gives the weapon an insane amount of utility that I have seen get put to great use in many scenarios in my time. Using it as an extra kick of momentum as a light assault with the impulse grenades has opened up some new movement opportunities for me as a player, and on the odd occasion, you can also book players off of high ledges with it as well. Its supportive capabilities has also seen it become a must-have for some of my point-hold medic loadouts and my vehicle crewman engineer kits. It's a weapon that has changed how some of my classes actually play, and that to me makes it worthy of being a favourite among the bunch. The art of CQC sniping. This is one of the most controversial playstyles in the game, and look, I'm not above admitting that on the odd occasion, I have wished the swiftest of blue screens upon the crafty bastards who have used these weapons against me, but there's no denying my love for the SAS-R, GAUSS, and TSAR 46 for the NC, VS, and TR respectively. These weapons are, in my opinion, the pinnacle for high skill, high reward gameplay in the game right now, and as a result, are so much fun to master. For those who don't know, these are bolt action sniper rifles that sacrifice your muzzle velocity and long range scope options in favor of faster rechamber times and lower zoomed optics. What? Yeah, you heard me correctly, friends. These little bundles of joy are bolt action sniper rifles that are all about CQC precision, and in a high-octane CQC environment of Planetside where there are grenades flying at you left, right, and center, a bolt-action rifle is probably the last thing you would normally consider grabbing. But once you get the motions down, man oh man, it is so damn satisfying to use these weapons. I've actually been working these weapons a bit more lately, and I honestly can't get enough of it. The challenge alone is the reason these weapons are some of my favorites in the game right now. The T7 MINI-CHAINGUN. I know that having this on the list here will be a head turner for all the wrong reasons for many people. Many a TR compadre have made their dislike for this weapon very clear to me on many occasions, especially in my Twitch streams, and I will be the first to admit that in 90% of the situations I face, I'm more likely to pick something completely different. The constant cone of fire variance and the need for the weapon to quote-unquote spool up does make it a less competitive option in the grand scheme of things right now. But by the same token, may I remind you that it's a goddamn handheld chain gun that is capable of spitting out an absurd amount of bullet vomit continuously. And that makes it just a great deal of fun to play with if you want to turn your brain cells off and hold left click. The amount of times I've found that perfect flank and simply held down left click and murdered an entire squad has really allowed the weapon to pay for itself over time. It's just a weapon that screams TR, and while I will admit it might be due for a small buff of some kind just to make it a little bit more competitive in more scenarios, I just can't look past it being something that is dumb and fun to use in some scenarios. I challenge you. No, I actually dare you to find me a more universally loved sidearm to have ever graced the battlefields of Araxis. This futuristic 6-shooter that sports one of the more aesthetically pleasing reloads to have ever graced the first-person shooter genre has been a trusty companion for many of my hours in this game, and it doesn't take you long to figure out why. Power. Just raw, undisputed power. This weapon is the Planetside equivalent of the 44 Magnum, and in the right hands, it's quite simply a weapon that will dispatch any SOB that didn't get the message when you tried to dump an entire magazine into them. Also, if you happen to get close enough to an infiltrator that isn't running any damage modifiers or extra shielding, you can actually relocate their brains to the nearby pavement with one well-placed headshot for some hilarious assassination moments. It also sports incredible hipfire accuracy, which is great for whipping this thing out in a pinch. It's just all reliable, and while I have found myself using weapons like the Underboss and the Pilot a bit more lately in my secondary weapon slots, the Commissioner is just a great deal of fun to use that puts it so high on this list. The LC3 Jaguar is just a weapon that screams polish. It's my daily driver in the TR carbine world because, well, quite frankly, there's very few scenarios, as a light assault in particular, where I can't see this weapon working just brilliantly. The standout here is its amazing hipfire, which when paired with that advanced laser sight, is more than capable of committing some incredible light assault tomfoolery that will leave your enemies scratching their now misplaced heads. The rate of fire is what you'd expect from a TR carbine, alongside an admirable recoil pattern, which means that if, I don't know, you need a little bit more than RNGs on your side with the hipfire and you need to actually aim for once, then the weapon does provide there as well. It's just the perfect mix of effective and great fun to use that sees me coming back to it repeatedly, and can certainly recommend it to the most aggressive TR light assaults out there. So the Jaguar is all about getting aggressive and blasting people down with a hipfire that defies the laws of traditional accuracy in FPS games. But the Vanquisher is quite a different beast. So the Vanquisher is the latest addition to the NC assault rifle arsenal, and it released alongside the serviceable Lacerta and not so serviceable Arbalest, which to this day I admittingly despise. So why does this weapon tickle my fancy more than the other options like the Reaper DMR, the GAUSS rifle, or the Carnage AR, all of which I have very publicly praised on countless occasions? Well, it's just thanks to the all-around surgical approach that this rifle takes. Yes, with the Reaper DMR, you can full-on send it with a mag of heavily damaging rounds. With the Carnage, I can get into the thick of it with my squad and have a competitive option for all ranges, and the GAUSS rifle is more than an able workhorse. But the Vanquisher just has something about it, The ability to one-burst some poor bastard at any range with headshots gives this weapon an insane amount of kill potential per magazine if you place your shots well. In addition, the burst functionality limits the amount of times that you actually overshoot your target after he's gone down. And if you're lucky enough to find a spot where the enemy has left you a plentiful amount of heads to click, like the clip you're seeing in the gameplay right now, then there's no denying there's nothing else out there like it. This is one of my favourite weapons in the game right now for that reason alone. The Obelisk is also a pretty recent-ish addition to the game as far as weapons are concerned, but like the Vanquisher, it quickly stole my heart as my favourite weapon in its respective category. Now yes, the Bishop for the NC and the Dragoon for the TR are statistically the exact same out of the box, so why the Obelisk? Couple of reasons. Firstly, the fact that it makes use of the heat mechanic as opposed to using conventional ammo. Now, on a weapon like the Beetlejuice, we are already very well across how useful that mechanic is. But on a weapon like this also means that you can find a location as an infiltrator per se, that is totally detached from your allies and never have to go chasing down an engineer to keep your shenanigans going. Oh, and throw in the fact that there is no bullet drop on the rounds here, and you have yourself a tool that is perfect for sitting out whoop whoop and taking things a little slower. If I ever want to really just sit back and take my session at a snail's pace, taking the spectacle of the battle in just that little bit more, this is the weapon I'll take on board. And some of you thought that we would get through a top 10 favourite weapons list without talking about the Cyclone. my poor sweet VS and TR, this was coming no matter what was added to the game. Now look, I would be lying if I told you that the Gladius SMG that spits out a whopping 200 damage per shot in CQC wasn't close in the running here. But the Cyclone, guys, it's special. It's like your first time. It's the first ever SMG we got, and for that reason, it's held a special place in my heart from the get-go. The 167 damage model with a 652 rounds per minute fire rate, a combo so deadly that some will only ever dream of seeing in their hands. The glorious hipfire, the speedy reload, there's a reason that this weapon is feared among the TR and the VS, because it is simply that good an all-rounder, and a great addition to the armory of the craftier infiltrator player. There is no denying that in group situations it does fall short a bit, but a weapon like this that provides one of the fastest time to kills in the game is a weapon that invites incredibly juicy kill streaks when you play it right and utilize its advantages. A weapon that I have had many fond memories with, and therefore a worthy way to end our list here today. And that, guys, concludes today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting the like button. It goes a long way with supporting me with the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff. And I'm going to swing this difficult question back towards you guys. What are your favourite weapons to use in Planetside 2? and why. List your top 10 down below and give us some arguments as to why/why not. If you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing and also follow me on my Twitch channel, link down in the description down below. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.